Hello, everyone, and welcome. Excuse me. This is Jean Gallagher with Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. And Denise and I are giggling in the background, and then it's time to talk.
Is that a
So
talk?
I'm here with Denise Stegall, our longevity concierge specialist. How are you, Denise?
I am good. I am a concierge. I am a specialist. And the reason why I'm a concierge is because I'm a specialist. Um, what does that even mean?
We're talking about confidence and resolution, right?
Yeah.
And And so we're going to talk about shifting the perspective just a little bit.
Yeah, it's shifting from that negative to a more positive mindset. Or in my world, when I'm working with clients, I say shifting from saboteur, like that saboteur behavior, to
Mhm.
sage, which is a much more positive, um, uplifting mindset. So, what happens so often when it comes to confidence is we have these internal voices in our head. Remember, we were talking about that earlier. Um, some, there's the good angel and the bad angel, kind of blah 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 blah, back and forth. Um, and we have these conversations in our heads all the time. And some of them are just, most of them are so far from the truth. They're so far off base. Somebody might have said something to you when you were 7, and somehow you're holding on to that. One of the things that somebody said to me when I was 8 or 9 was, "Well, you can't do that. You're a girl." And I didn't know this, about myself at the time, but it's like, I'm going to show you, bucko, you know. So
Thanks for telling me that because now I got a fire.
so at the moment I was going to prove him wrong. But what happened was that did stick in my mind. And more and more as I got older, 10, 12, 15, I started to that phrase started to creep into my head, and can I do this? Is this some, I am a girl. Well, is that very feminine? Is that really girly? Well, I don't even know what that really meant, or certainly didn't mean anything to me. I still like to go bike riding and swimming and doing all the fun things that I always did. But all of a sudden, the conversation changed. And we know, especially as women, when we were young girls, like things that people said to us could be really hurtful. And as much as at this stage in life, we could potentially just kind of like let it go much easier. Back then, we could not. And this is the kind of like the conversation is in our heads. They're there to protect us in a way,
Mhm.
right? But at this stage, at 53 years old, I don't need to be protected the way that little girl did. So it really is about listening to the voices, the voices in your head that are holding you back. Like, what's holding you back? Is it somebody said to you one time that you're not smart enough? I know one of the things that as women, very often we hear, well, girls aren't good at math. Okay, I'm not really good at math, but I have my niece is actually pretty darn good at math. Well, no one ever said to her, girls aren't good at math. So she never had that in her head.
Mhm.
And so as she's doing, calculations or doing whatever she's doing, whatever they do mathematically, that never creeps in. But yet,
Mhm.
for somebody like me, who I've always been told, oh, girls aren't good in math. You should do, English and social studies. Whenever there's a math problem, I kind of go blank because I think, oh, I don't know how to do this. I'm not good enough. And I grab my phone and I try to have my phone figure it out. Well, why don't I just figure it out on myself? I can. I'm perfectly capable of. And that's the thing. We're perfectly capable of doing the things our internal voices are telling us we can't.
Mhm.
So tapping into that inner sage, as we call it, that you think of the sage as that person who, at the top of the mountain, who is all knowing, all, kind of all knowing of everything, right? That's your sage. Your sage knows what you can do. Your inner person, whoever you are inside, inside your heart, in your heart of hearts who you are and what you are capable of. We just let these voices get in the way. They can be loud. They
Mhm.
can get loud. But once you start listening, really paying attention to what they're saying, not in a way to believe it, but in a way to question it, you will find some clarity. With that clarity comes more confidence.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, we go back to the journaling piece, and I keep talking about journaling, and I am the worst journaler ever. But
you journal the way that works for you.
The more I talk about it, the more I'm probably trying to convince myself that I'm supposed to be. So this is helpful, right?
Okay.
I think it is. But if you're journaling these things as well, and you might actually recognize a pattern and identify a pattern and look back and at what you've written in a third party business, non-emotional mindset, non-judgmental, because this has to be a total judgment-free zone, and see what you've written and see the pattern. And if you were listening to somebody else telling you this, what would you say to them?
That's a very good point.
Mm.
Very, very good point. You know, we say things to ourselves that we would never say to anybody else. Right. And if we heard a friend say something so negative about themselves, we would be the first person to be like, no, wait a minute, you know, and to kind of come in as their, you know, to save them from these horrible thoughts. Right. But we don't do that for ourselves. And I think I would agree, journaling can really help you do that. Kind of save yourself. Right. I mean, we're not on this planet alone. You know, there are lots of other people to help. But we have to take those steps to help ourselves first. We need to know what we need help with. And so journaling can really help you to do that, like you said, to find those patterns. And you will find them. It's always it always amazes me when that happens. I was talking to a client the other day. Last year she was invited to give a talk at a big conference for the company that she works for. It's a MLM company so she works with. And originally she was going to turn it down. And we chatted about that, you know, why did she want to do that? And she's like, well, you know, I don't know that I'm really, you know, I don't know if I'm really the person for that. You know, yeah, I've had some success. And these negative thoughts really just almost paralyze her. And she said she had written the email to turn it down. And we had a session the next day. So she didn't send it. She just kind of had it sitting there in her inbox. And she realized that some of the things that we talk about all the time with this saboteur sage, this positive negative mindset, and how to understand it better when you hear it, one, to pick it up and to step back. It was crazy because she said, like, that after our session, she completely deleted it, rewrote the email, and accepted. And she just was at that conference 2 weeks ago. The first week of, no, a week ago, just last week. I was looking at the date. It was like the 6th or 7th of January. And she said, Denise, it was the best thing she has done in her life. It was motivating. She motivated people. And she said, you know, and to think I wasn't going to do it. And it all came from shifting her thought process or thought pattern from
And perspective. Yeah.
Changing that perspective.
And it wasn't that she did anything differently. She just changed how she thought about the whole situation.
Exactly. And she showed up authentically, which we do. You know, we show up as who we are, but she showed up as her authentic self, powerful self, as opposed to kind of showing up with, okay, well, this is what I did. And, you know who you are and you know what you've done. Or own that. Forget the crazy.
What a great story.
Thank you.
So to wrap up this portion, I think that this portion is probably the hardest or the most difficult of what you've been talking about under the resolution header. And changing your internal thought process. Because first of all, you have to recognize that your thought process needs a change. And then once you figure it out, well, is that stinking thinking that you're giving yourself that's maybe maybe causing the roadblock or the obstacle of what we were just talking about in a previous segment, but it does take that self analysis and to just really sit with yourself first and say, what could be, how am I considering myself? Why am I thinking that I can or I can't do this?
Mm-hmm. Very true. And this is something that I have when I work with my private clients. I have them take a saboteur assessment. Now, it's
Mm,
not mine. It's something that somebody else has done and done research
it's
on.
yours now.
And it's mine now. It's something by Shirzad Chamine. And it's amazing how it just shows you time and again. I've taken this, like I take it like every year, just to see if things have changed. And my top three saboteurs, those top three negative mindsets, they're always the same. Now, sometimes they're less than they were in the beginning, but they're always the same. So that is something that I think is really a great tool for people who are going, okay, well, what do I do? So I'll send you the link to the assessment. People can use that. It goes directly to Positive Intelligence, and the email response comes directly to their email.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh,
and then
great tool.
if people want to connect with you or me afterwards, that would be great.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you. Great tool to be able to get through this one. This takes a lot of work. So thank
This one
you.
takes
Thank
work.
you so much. Yeah. Hello, everyone. This is Jean Gallagher, Discover Rising Tides, and I want to just take a moment to talk about my friend, Denise Stegall. I am honored to call her as a friend, and I'm so grateful that she gives us her insight during our shows each show and talks about healthy living, eating real food. You hear Denise say, eat real food a lot. Well, she means it, and she knows what she's talking about. She is an amazing healthy living coach, curator at Living Healthy List. And if you ever have any questions about what is real food, why does it matter? How does that apply to me? How do I change? What do I need to do? How do I even create a healthy living shopping list? Make sure that you call her. She is your healthy living coach. And you can find her at healthylivinglist.com. Hello, everyone. My name is Jean Gallagher with Discover Rising Tides, and welcome. And I'm here, of course, I'm here with Denise Stegall. How are you, Denise?
I'm great. How are you today?
I am so well, and we're talking about becoming stronger in our older years and the importance of it. And we've talked about the importance of building muscle and preventing muscle loss. But now we're going to take it one step further. And where are we going with this?
We're going to talk about this advice that we get so often, whether it's from a doctor or if it's from a young personal trainer. They say, eat less, move more. And why that advice is actually failing us in midlife,
Mhm.
right? Traditional fitness advice always encourages calorie restriction, right? Yes, if you need to
It's so
lose
bad
weight,
that way. No wonder we have
right?
we have so many issues with our body.
Mhm. Right. We've spent so many years like counting calories and
Mhm.
trying to burn off calories. And you and I both have done the same. We've ridden our bikes, we've, run and walked and, done all this cardio. I mean, hours worth of cardio, right? I mean, classes would be 75 minutes back in the day. Um, we've basically what we're trying to do. So I lost my thought there, train of thought there for a second, is to burn calories. Well, burning calories is not really building muscle. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
going to burn off some of the food that you ate. But if we're eating the right food, eat real food, we don't really have to worry about that. And so that's one of the things I always say. It's not necessarily about eating less, it's about eating properly, eating the best food. So eat real food. That always is first and foremost when it comes to health and wellness. You are what you eat, right? If you're
Mhm.
eating Doritos and fast food all the time, you're basically your whole body is full of, fake sugar, um, fat, and all sorts of fake foods, fillers, and all the crap that they put in those, right? As
Mhm.
opposed to your body being nourished with fruits and vegetables, whole grains, nuts and seeds, fatty fishes, and lean meats,
Mhm.
right? So calorie restriction is really a bad idea. Now, yes, if you want to lose weight, you do have to um, pay a little bit more attention. But if you're eating real food, you don't have to pay as much attention because real food actually fills you up and satiates you, so you're not hungry. I mean, think about
Mhm.
how many times you I don't even know when you're younger, you go out and you have, I don't know, pizza or a hamburger from a fast food restaurant, and which is a really little thin piece of sort of meat, a bun, lots of carbs, but crappy carbs,
Mhm.
um, and French fries fried in um, oil, not a healthy oil, right?
Mhm.
Saturated fat, but a really just a heavy fat that's going to stick to your inside, to basically stick to your insides, your arteries, right? But an hour and a half later, you're hungry.
Mhm.
Whether if you'd had a piece of chicken and some veggies and maybe some brown rice or quinoa, you'd be fine until the next meal.
Right.
So eating less, that calorie restriction isn't really what's helping us. Um,
But
one of
it also doesn't, I interrupted. So sorry.
that's fine. No, go for it.
But there, your body isn't getting enough food in order to, it's on protective mode. It's not on building mode. And if you are, to your point about eat real food and making sure that you're consuming the right amount of protein and the right amount of fats and the right amount of carbs, and y- and with the total amount that your body needs to maintain its metabolic rate so it starts to work in your favor versus protecting itself, the body's really, really smart. And I've learned so much from Megan and talking about, nutrition and learning about what your resting metabolic rate is and what calories are associated with that, and fueling your body correctly so that you can actually increase your metabolism so that your body burns more food and works more efficiently.
Right. And with that burns fat also,
Oh
right? At
yeah,
this, in midlife,
and builds
we
muscle.
and builds muscle. The fat is really a challenge. So what's happening here? Like, why is this not great advice? The calorie restriction and excessive cardio strategies. Because if you're going to exercise more, that's usually what people are going to do, right? They're going to run, they're going to get on the
Mhm.
elliptical, they're going to walk for 7 miles. A friend of mine did that recently. She's like, I went for a 7 mile walk. And I was like, why? Right? Okay. What's going on? One, of course, your estrogen is dropping. When your estrogen is dropping, fat storage increases. Why? Because we talked about this. Your metabolism starts to slow down and it
Mhm.
affects the way your body builds and maintains muscle. So estrogen is a big part of our lives in menopause. So the food that we're eating um, is essential because of, other than natural aging, our estrogen levels are dropping significantly. So we need to be able to counter that, right? The estrogen affects the efficiency of your metabolism. So it's like, okay, wait, these things go together. Eating well, metabolism, estrogen, all of these things go together. So
Mhm.
what's going on? Like what are one of the things with the excessive cardio? Excessive cardio workouts works against us through menopause because one, it's going to increase our cortisol. And cortisol, cortisol is that stress hormone. Um, they say the in menopause there's three hormones. I really believe there's four: estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and cortisol, because our cortisol levels go crazy in this stage of life. If we're not sleeping, if we don't have any energy, if we're not eating, cortisol levels go through the roof. So you're stressed. Your body, when you're stressed, your body's not digesting and doing its metabolizing
Mhm.
food efficiently. Again, there's that word, efficient metabolism. Um, it increases, if you're increasing your stress hormone, you're working out. I mean, 7 miles, my friend the other day, 7 miles walking. She's increasing, her stress hormones. Increased stress hormones, cortisol, leads to muscle breakdown, which is what we're trying to avoid, right? And then it keeps you in this weird cycle of weight gain, fatigue, which also starts to affect the way you think and feel. And we'll talk about that in another episode. So all of these things come together. Again, higher levels of cortisol, higher levels of fat storage, your sleep is non-existent, muscle is breaking down. But another thing that happens too, when we're doing all of this cardio and we're tired and our cortisol levels are going through the roof, we are tired. We also have more cravings. And what do we crave? We're
Well,
probably
the
not
body is
craving.
telling you that it's missing something.
Right. But we're probably not craving, carrots and hummus.
No.
Right. What's the thing that everybody goes for? Ice
Chips,
cream or
salty.
chips.
Yeah.
Right. And that in itself is going to backfire on you because it's working against what you're trying to do.
What's
Right.
interesting that I've noticed, maintaining my, I don't like to use the word diet because it's not, because my idea is how much food can I eat? Super
Yeah.
focused on eating as much as I can. But my cravings are non-existent. They're almost as non-existent as my internet seems to be at this moment.
They're getting a little wonky.
It is. So hopefully it'll catch up.
The internet, not the diet.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. There we go. But it is I've noticed that, my sleep is better. My body has what it needs to do its thing. So it's not asking me for items because we're sitting here and I'm thinking, what am I going to have for lunch? And it's when you get to the point that you are giving yourself permission to eat the right things and knowing that you can eat in all these different categories, it becomes more exciting. It's that abundance thought process versus that lack and avoidance of things.
Right. I mean, calorie restriction is restriction.
Helpful.
When you're restricting, and of course, the first thing you say, oh, I can't have that. What's the first thing you want?
Oh, that.
Exactly. The thing that
4
you said
times.
you can't. Right. So what do? We really need to focus or really kind of switch to a muscle first approach,
Oh,
fuel
I like that.
properly as we're talking,
Mhm.
and focus on metabolic health. That's really what we're talking about overall. This is metabolic health, right? This is what's going on in your body, chemically, biologically we're aging. We know that there are things going on, but there are all these chemical reactions that are happening that we can actually have a little bit more control of when we are proactive, right? And it's more paying attention to that than the weight on the scale.
Mhm.
Yes, at some
Yeah.
point that is important to understand,
Mhm.
where you are with your BMI. And people argue with me on BMI all the time because people with more muscle tend to have a little bit higher BMI because muscle weighs more than fat, right?
Mhm.
Takes up less space. So really we're looking for sustainable weight training workouts. Not that you want to stop cardio altogether, but we
Mhm.
don't want to do these
There's a balance.
hour-long grueling bouts on the elliptical. I love my elliptical. I'm never on it more than 20 minutes at a time. I do almost like a HIIT workout. I guess it is a HIIT workout. I do a HIIT workout on it. I warm up for a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes, and then for a minute I'll go as fast as I can, right? And then bring my heart rate down and then do it again really fast. And I try to string as many as I can. Now, the last time I did it, I think I strung 8 together. So 8, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20. So that was 21 minutes with my
Mhm.
workout or warm up. And then I got off and kind of walked around it for a cool down. Right. That was my cardio. That was great cardio. It was done in half an hour.
Mhm.
So cardio is still important because cardio is great. It is good for your heart health.
Mhm.
Estrogen
Yep.
affects heart
Your heart's
health.
a muscle. Yeah.
Heart is a muscle. So I guess the thing that I really want to, or the three takeaways here: eat real food, right? Nourish your body. Strength training for muscle and for your bones. Don't forget, let's not forget that. But also stress management. Keep that cortisol level low, and rest.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. And we're going to, so make sure everybody comes back because we have one more topic to talk about. Thanks,
You
Denise.
do. Thank you. It's always fun.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. I am Jean Gallagher, and I am here with Denise. And I want to say our Denise because you are our Denise. And Denise is here to, we're talking about the importance of building muscle later in our life and making sure we're feeding our body correctly because Denise always says, I should wait for everybody else to answer this, eat real food, but eating enough real food and making sure that you're providing your body an opportunity to actually build and grow because it takes a lot of work later on in life. And there's one more segment. What are we going to be adding to all of this?
Well, as we were just talking, there's one point that I want to make from last time that I'll get back to. Today, I want to talk a little bit about mindset around this. As we're getting older, so many women get into this mindset that's like, oh, it's just my body now. And they just kind of give up and they're like, I can't fix it. Here's the deal. You're not broken. You're under muscled. And that's something that's fixable.
I
So
love that term.
flexible,
Under
right?
muscled.
Under muscled. Right? I mean, how many women do we know that, when they wave, right? There's all the jiggle here. I mean, I got a little bit, I got a pretty good muscle there.
Yeah,
So
look at that.
building muscle, everyone. So there's no jiggle there, just a little bit. But I have something to continue to work on. And life is a work in progress, right? Everything is a work in progress. So I do want to go back real quickly. You started the segment talking about eat real food, and that's really where we need to start. We need to make sure that we're paying attention to the healthy foods that we're eating. One of the things when we talk about building muscle is we need to pay attention to quality protein, right? Protein in this time of our life is so important. Muscle and protein go together, right? Muscle needs protein in order to really to grow and to grow muscle and to maintain muscle. And it's really hard when people say, oh, but I can't eat that much, I can't eat that much meat. That's okay. You don't have to eat meat. There are plenty of plant-based protein sources, but you do have to really pay attention. For plant-based protein sources are not. Oh, I'm sure they're not gonna be happy with me. They're not equal to animal-based proteins. They just are not, right? They don't necessarily have the same structure. There's no heme iron in there, right? And we know that a lot of people who are specifically vegetarian can become iron deficient. So these are some things that we also, in addition to everything else, if you're focusing on plant-based proteins, you really need to pay attention to as well.
It's possible. It's just going to take more work. In that, I think that the thing about the plant-based piece that that goes back to the eat real food that's really important is there are a lot of plant-based options that are prepared and pre-prepared. So understanding what goes into that particular food item and going back to the basics, because
Absolutely.
you can provide your body with protein in a plant environment, but you might have to supplement in some other areas, but also making sure you're not finding all of the highly processed plant-based food, because that's what's on the market so much lately, and it's just really hard to work around that.
Yeah, the workaround is not to buy them. It really is.
Right.
If it, tofu and tempeh, beans
Hmm.
and legumes, nuts and seeds have great amounts of protein. Pea
Hmm.
protein is really beneficial. Soy
Sure.
protein, right? There's lots of protein, but and that's great if that's the road people want to go down. So I think it's important enough to mention, the two types of protein. And yes, you
Hmm.
can get enough, but this is a time where you need to know exactly how much protein you need for your body.
Hmm.
And that said, this is a time where you might want to work with someone to understand that better.
Yeah,
The
it makes a
2000,
huge difference.
right? Like the
Finding a
RDA
nutrition coach to
says.
do that.
Absolutely. RDA says, the calorie, 2000 calories is what we should all be eating. There's no freaking way. I'm 5 foot tall. There's no way 2000 calories is what I need. I said about 1400. That's about what my body needs, right?
Hmm.
Between, what is burning just sitting still or sleeping and what I
Right.
need to keep my metabolism going. So again, what are we focusing on here? All of these things have to do with muscle, building muscle. So plant proteins, animal proteins, protein here when it comes to your diet with a little d, meaning what you
Hmm.
eat, is essential in this time. Because if we're not eating enough protein, we don't feel well. If you're starting your workouts, like we've been talking about in the last two segments, and you start your strength training, you're not going to have the energy
Hmm.
that you need. And
And yeah,
without that,
you're not gonna perform like you should. Yeah,
right. And you're
like you
not going to
could,
get
not you should, but that you
you
could, to
could.
get the
Right.
benefit of the time that you're going to spend doing the thing.
Exactly. If you're going to
Hmm.
do this, we need to do it right. And it's not, there are three, there are more than one segment. It's eat real food, right? Muscles, for strength training for muscle and bone, and then
Hmm.
the stress management and rest. And I really believe that um, this segment, you're not broken, you're under muscled. This is really about stress management. Yes, it's about mindset. But when you have this crazy mindset, like, I'm broken, this is just the way my body is, I can't do this, I can't lift weights, I don't want to look like, a bodybuilder. Really,
Not
ladies,
gonna
you're not
happen.
right. You're not built like a man. You're not a man. You don't have that much testosterone. And by the way, it's decreasing anyway. So that's not going to happen. Right. But we can get into this negative Nelly mindset where, kind of feel like your body is betraying you, it's just aging. We're all aging. Guess what? None of us are getting younger, right?
Hmm.
The simple fact really is we're not supporting muscle and metabolism correctly. That's
Right.
not mindset, right?
Yeah, I like how you put that and comparing it to what the RDA says. I'm 5'7", so I'm a couple of inches taller than you, and
Seven.
and and my calories are, from my amazing nutrition coach Megan, are are 1800,
Mhm.
and my calories are set to muscle build.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
Mhm. Absolutely. And this is something that most of us don't understand because we don't take the time or pay the money to actually work with a
Hmm.
professional who knows how to help us. Right?
Right.
We go to our friends. I don't know what to do about this. Oh, well, this product worked for me. And then they get into the supplement craze. Not that all supplements are bad. Supplements are
Hmm.
there for a reason, right? But there, there's not a supplement that's going to, increase your muscle mass on its own, right? There are products that help, creatine, amino acids. Gene, help me, I can't think of some of them.
Yeah, no, you're right. And there's a whole list of them. But without food and without exercise, those are not going to do anything.
Mhm. And let's not forget proper hydration also, since we're talking
Then
about
there's that.
exercise and food. Proper hydration is essential, because most women are, we're not drinking enough water.
Mhm.
Um, and then we have the people who are drinking too much water. So really, you have to really think about it. Just walking around with a bottle of water, chugging it here and there, is probably not the way to stay hydrated. But it's another one of these things. We do need to be a little bit more mindful. And again, that kind of goes back to a little bit of mindset, right? But when we're in this negative mindset and we're not paying attention to what we can do to fight aging, right?
Mhm.
It's discouraging, but it also leads to inconsistency with what we're eating, with our exercise. And a lot of people just give up altogether. They're like, because they haven't, again, taken the time or spent the money to work with a professional. It doesn't have to be a long time. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. But you do need
Mhm.
to understand what's going on and what's best for you, right? And that is going to take the whole mindset piece out of the equation. So it's more about, I guess, when it comes to the mindset, reframing the whole narrative, right? Midlife isn't like you're not declining, life is changing, but it's a chance to actually, rise up and be a stronger person, mentally,
Mhm.
physically, and emotionally, right? But of course, that starts with education, support, and a clear strength training plan that
Mhm.
works for midlife women and women going through menopause.
Yeah, if you're under muscled, you are not broken. I love that. And a
Under
little bit of
muscle is
work and
fixable.
guidance. Yes, it is. Denise, thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's always fun to chat, Jean.
Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show was sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me. And if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.